Speaker.
The Honourable Paula Bennett.
Mr Speaker, I am pleased to take a call and to stand up and support this budget. I want to thank the Honourable Bill English for the work that he has done, and might I say that it was not easy. It has been a hard process to go through this, but there is no doubt about it that this national-led government has presented a budget that is about building our future as a country. It is about building a stronger economy. It is about a stronger workforce. It is about a platform for growth, and it will make a substantial difference to where we go as a country. It's a responsible approach, Mr Speaker, a responsible approach in these times, which are our times and which indeed are a bit tougher. In Vote Social Development, I'm proud to say we found savings but avoided those wholesale cuts to services and to programs. We have done so through a continued focus on finding efficiencies and getting smarter at what we do and how we run it as a business and how we do our business. Vote Social Development has a total appropriation of $21.7 billion, Mr Speaker. A third of all spend is under that responsibility. And in this budget, fiscal constraints meant that we had no new funding. So we have focused that funding and that spending on who needs it most. I'm going to talk to you a bit about youth employment, the children in care, parenting support, employment assistance, Christchurch Rebuild, community organisations that have had our support, and of course our wonderful superannuitants. On those wonderful superannuitants, we are projecting to spend about $9.5 billion in the next financial year, $9.5 billion just on super. On top of that, we're also projecting to spend about $288 million in supplementary support to them. That is through disability allowances, accommodation supplements, also through special need grants and special needs loans. So in Budget 2011, we set aside or reprioritised $250 million for social initiatives. This included, of course, the $55 million that is going into youth employment and a $43.7 million package that I'm going to talk to you a bit more about those wonderful children in care that need every bit of help they can get. The $55.2 million that's gone into the youth employment package is, of course, to help those youth who are making up about a third of our current unemployment benefit numbers. Currently, we've got about 17,100 young people on the unemployment benefit. Mr Speaker, we all know that they need better lives. We all know that getting them at that age and making sure that they have a future and a way forward is perhaps one of the best investments that we can make as a government. That is why we have actually built on what works. So we have evaluated, we have looked at what has worked as what we've done currently, and then what we have done is progressed that. Mr Speaker, we have done the Skills for Growth program. That is where we subsidise an employer who takes on a young person for 12 months minimum, and attached to that is a whole training and skills growth alongside of it. So they're attached to an ITO, they're attached to a targeted industry where the jobs are needed. The intention of that policy is to make sure that that young person does not come back on the benefit in their lifetime. This gives them a skill for life, real job experience, and also that training alongside of it. And we think that's pretty exciting, and it's going to make a difference. We took the very, very successful Job Ops, which has currently seen over 11,000 young people in work. Those 11,000 young people are in work due to that $5,000 subsidy, which is for 6 months, which takes these young people in, gives them a job for 6 months, most of them staying on a lot longer. We now have attached to that with training, so it's now a Job Ops with training, which means that we can see those young people also getting the training systems alongside of them for that 6 months. So, Mr Speaker, $13 million, but funding places for sort of 3,000 young people, certainly a worthwhile spend, and one that we have come up with in this budget. Of course, LSV, or the Limited Service Volunteers, which occasionally gets mixed up with the military-style activity camps, and I don't like that. They're very different things. The Limited Services Volunteers is for those on the unemployment benefit, is a 6-week course and is about motivation and self-responsibility and clicking into what they can do and actually giving them those sorts of skills, career advice, and then following them afterwards. However, the MAC camps are very, very different in that they are dealing with very serious youth offenders. So really rapt that the LSV has come along, that we are putting a lot more into those, a lot more places there, ongoing funding for 1,500 places a year. Community responses. It was one thing to sort of, while we knew that recession was hitting as we came into government, we knew there was going to be an increase in demand for our services that are out there working on the ground. However, a decrease in funding because the foundations and the various philanthropists weren't able to give the same amount of money to them. We wanted to fill that gap, Mr. Speaker. So we have spent more than $55 million over the last 2 years on 700 organisations. More than $55 million on more than 700 organisations. What we really noticed, though, is that they are still feeling that pressure, and as we went around and spoke to them, they sort of said it ain't over yet and we need a bit more help. So I am absolutely delighted that this budget put $25 million more into those community organisations. There will be 3 rounds. It will be available as it is, and I know that it is much needed and really is getting fantastic response from the people out there in the community. I love that it's community-led as well. It's community people that are on that forum that are actually taking these funding applications and deciding who gets them and where they are needed most. But I've made no secret, Mr. Speaker, that perhaps what I'm most proud of in this budget is the assistance we are giving to children in care. These are those children that are removed from their homes because, quite frankly, an adult has treated them appallingly. At worst, they have been seriously abused or sexually assaulted. And in this instance, the best is that they have been hideously neglected. These are our children. They are broken, they are hurt, and we are not doing as well by them as we could be. So when we take them from their homes, Mr. Speaker, we take about 2,200 a year. We take about 90 babies at birth. So literally a social worker and a policeman or woman is waiting outside of a delivery room and taking that child. And what we do with them then is put them into great foster homes and try and work with them and get them the right counselling. In some cases we're doing it well, in others the truth is we are not. So what we have done after running a pilot is we are increasing the gateway assessments for health and education. And it's as simple as, Mr. Speaker, how can we actually fix their very complex problems if we don't even know what they are? Yeah? How can we actually do what needs to be done with these children when we don't even know what really their history is, what their needs are and what we can do? So this is a full assessment, usually led by a paediatrician. It has an administrator next to it that's collecting all of their educational history that can sometimes go back quite far. They're often transitional, so they have moved from before school programs to after school programs to schools because they have been moved around, and we have actually making sure that we're going back and getting as much as we can. What our pilots have told us is that 88% of those children that come into care have health needs. 40% or more have mental health needs. They are not being seen, they are not getting the services they need. Of those more than 40% that are seen to have either severe mental or behavioural issues, only 7% are currently getting assistance through CAMS, and that is not good enough. So we then had to make sure that we were getting them the services they needed, so we put $14.5 million into mental health services. To be quite blunt with you, Mr. Speaker, you can spend so much time arguing on whether or not something is behavioural or psychological or what has actually caused the major problems that these children have, that you're trying to squeeze them into a gateway that isn't there or is a box, and mental health is sort of saying it's not us, and then the psychologists are saying, well, they fit more there, and then they fit there, and in the meantime this child's grown up and not gotten the support that they most desperately need. So I'm going to build them their own little flexible box, and I'm just going to direct purchase what they need without the sort of needs of having to actually fit into those arguments of where they fit. And I reckon that's one of the most important things that we can do as a government. So let's work out what those needs are. Let's make sure that we actually then address them. We're also going to fund early childhood care for those children from the ages of 18 months through to 3 years, and then of course the 20 hours kicks in. I say this this is great for the kids because we know that quality early childhood care makes a difference, but I equally say this is about respite care for those wonderful foster parents or grandparents raising these children that have stepped in to look after them. And yes, Mr Speaker, we are funding $2.4 million into Parents Inc. to give to support to those foster parents and those grandparents raising grandchildren that are in our communities up and down this country and that beg us almost on a daily basis for help. And they take these children on all of their own means. They live in our very small communities, they live in our larger towns as well, and they want help. And I am really proud to be giving that to them. So, Mr Speaker, I'm proud of this. I'm proud of this budget. I'm proud of what we're doing for those most vulnerable people, and I think that it will make a difference. Thank you.
Honourable Annie.